Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. The game preview show, 49ers versus Houston Texans. We've been building to this all week. This is going to be a lot of fun because we're going to break down all the injuries, who's playing, who's not. We're going to look at the coaching staffs, where's the advantage for which coaching staff, who comes from where. That'll give you an idea of what each team is going to run schematically. We're going to go through some of those key matchups that are going to pay huge dividends for the 49ers or for the Texans, which ones match up, which ones don't, some of the keys to this game and where each team is doing well, especially when it comes to the numbers on third down and in the red zone. Of course, we're going to get into some Wild That's Bold predictions, which are always fun. And then at the end, we're going to give the predictions brought to you by FanDuel. So this is one of those ones you buckle in because you're getting all the information you need to set you up for the game on Sunday morning. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So let's get right into it, because one of the most important things when it comes to game time, especially when you're looking at a 49ers team, is always who's out, who's injured, who's not playing. Well, of course, Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are both out. And, of course, last week there was that report on Sunday from Diana Rossini that the 49ers thought Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall were going to be ready to go this week. That is not the case. Even though Brock Purdy has ramped up his practice, he started doing more, started getting a little bit more explosive, at least in front of the reporters. They're not ready to pull the trigger yet. And it's okay because Mac Jones has been playing well. Because Mac Jones has been playing well, there's no rush to get Brock Purdy out there on the field. They've got time to kind of let that toe continue to progress and get better. And when it comes to Ricky Pearsall, they really haven't displayed any urgency in getting him back on the field. They want to make sure that knee is right when he comes back. The likelihood is the next 2 games are on turf, probably not coming back if you're dealing with a toe or you're dealing with a knee. So there's a really good chance it's going to take a couple more weeks. They're going to play the Texans and the Giants, and then we'll probably see Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall. But I don't want to discount the chance that Brock Purdy comes back next week. You just never know, but you would think the 49ers would lean that direction. So both of those guys are out. Ignore national media pundits who are saying one way or the other. I don't think they really have a good grasp on Brock Purdy or Ricky Pearsall's injury or the situation. So just remember that. So the 49ers are also going to be without their number 1 defensive player from last week, Bryce Huff. He's out with the hamstring. The good news is it can't be that significant. Number 1, because they said a couple weeks. Number 2, they seen him on a side field already rehabbing. That is good news when dealing with a hamstring. There's a lot of times if it's a significant pull, they're not even out there running at all. They're kind of in the back. They get more treatment, massages, things like that. So this is a good sign for Bryce Huff, and hopefully he can be back in a couple weeks. Same thing. I don't know if you really want him to come back for the New York Giants. More than likely, the week after seems like the most logical. Yetur Gross-Matos still not back. He's dealing with a hamstring as well. They said a few weeks ago. So it's extending a little bit longer than they want, but I understand why they didn't put him on IR. They want to make sure they have IR spots in case they need them for players that are on the IR right now. A guy like Fred Warner, for instance. Now, that's a long shot of him coming back, but you always want to make sure you have some leeway and some flexibility, and you've used some of those already. You might use one this week with Spencer Burford. We'll talk about him in a second. So no Gross-Matos, no Bryce Huff. That means Robert Beal Jr. is going to see significant snaps in this game. Let's see what he can do. Maybe they'll elevate Travis Gibson. By the time you watch this, they might have elevated Travis Gibson. And then out Jake Brendel. So that means Matt Hennessy gets his first start of the season, and Jake Brendel won't be there. So likelihood, they're going to elevate Nick Zakelj. So Nick Zakelj is going to be one of the elevations for this game. I think that's probably the most foregone conclusion for the 49ers, and he will back up Matt Hennessy. And let's see what Hennessy can do against a very good Houston Texans defensive line. I'm sure we'll be talking about him in a minute. Now, when it comes to Spencer Burford, he's listed as questionable because they opened up his practice window. There's no guarantee that he's going to be activated this week. If you look at George Kittle, he got activated the same week he started practicing. But Kevin Givens, they gave him an extra week as he was coming back from a pectoral injury. So I think it just all depends on the situation. I do believe that it makes sense for the 49ers to activate Spencer Burford, but there will have to be a corresponding move. They'll have to drop someone from the 53-man roster or put someone IR. So we'll see what they do there, but they could definitely use the depth. I hope this is not, but this might be one of those times where Drew Moss has to take a step back. We'll see. We'll see what happens if they end up waiving Drew Moss. Hopefully not. I think that the 49ers would love to keep him, but they've got to create a roster spot for Spencer Burford, who could at least rotate with Connor Kobe and is at worst, your backup tackle that steps in case of an injury. And so far, the 49ers have been fortunate. They haven't had either one of their tackles go down. Luke Gifford dealing with a hamstring, but he did return to practice on Friday. It looks like he's trending in the positive direction as far as playing. Same with De'Amari Lenore, who's dealing with a quadricep bruise. So he took a shot to his thigh, and it caused a bruise. And a lot of times that's tough. You got to work through it. The good thing is De'Amari Lenore has been limited at practice, and I think it's trending in a positive direction for De'Amari Lenore to go out there and play. So the 49ers should be full strength, Upton Stout, Renardo Green, and De'Amari Lenore all out there together with your safety room that includes, Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa, and of course, Marquise Siegel. So it's going to be interesting to see how the makeup of this team looks. Are we going to get big nickel looks, especially against a little bit of a depleted wide receiver room for the Houston Texans? Should be a lot of fun. Now, that Houston Texans team lost some big-time weapons at wide receiver. I just talked about it being depleted. Wide receiver Nico Collins, he couldn't get through concussion protocol. It's tough having a full week to be able to do it, but the fact that he suffered the concussion on Monday night really made it difficult for him to be able to clear concussion protocol. He did not, so he's out for the game. That's a big loss for the Houston Texans. That'll make it a little bit easier for the 49ers because Nico Collins is their number one go-to guy. But don't get it twisted. They still have a lot of guys on their team that can make plays at the wide receiver position, but they're really young. They got a lot of young talent, and we'll see how those guys do. But we were all fans of them in the draft process, so we know exactly who they are. Cornerback Elijah Huzzie, he's going to be out. He's dealing with a knee. And then wide receiver Christian Kirk, still not back from the hamstring injury. So their two top weapons out of this game from the wide receiver position. That's going to put more pressure on C.J. Stroud, the young wide receivers, and tight end Dalton Schultz to make plays. They're still capable. The offense can still make things happen, and C.J. Stroud can still sling the football. And it's not like players being out, look at Tampa Bay, has prevented the 49ers from giving up big plays to wide receivers. So you can't rest on your laurels. You got to go out there and play everything like the top wide receivers are out there. And I expect the 49ers are going to answer that call. They're not going to go into this game, with their eyes shut. They're going to be wide open. They're going to be ready for this battle. Now, questionable defensive end Danico Autry. He played last week. He came back from injury. I expect Danico Autry to play in this game, and I expect him to be a problem for the interior portion of the 49ers offensive line in obvious pass down. So Connor Kobe, strap it up. Dominic Pooney, Matt Hennessy, strap it up. You're going to have to deal with Danico Autry and others, but I expect him to play. Same with cornerback Jalen Smith. He's dealing with a hamstring. I think he is more than likely to go for the Houston Texans. So let's look at the coaching staff. Head coaches Kyle Shanahan and DeMeco Ryans, two of the most well-respected, at least in my eyes. I think DeMeco Ryans is just a phenomenal coach. I loved him when he was in San Francisco. I thought he did such a great job before as a linebacker coach and then eventually as a defensive coordinator. Attention to detail all over the place, fiery, just somebody that you can look at as a leader. I think he's a really good coach, and he's a really good defensive coordinator as well. And then, of course, Kyle Shanahan right now has been executing his offense at a high level, calling the right plays at the right time, and just making sure this offense does what it needs to do to win games. It hasn't been explosive, that's for sure. They've only been averaging a little over 20 points per game, but it's efficient and it's effective. and is starting to get better in the red zone, which is going to be one of the keys to this game as well. Play callers for the offense, Kyle Shanahan, of course, and Nick Caley for the Houston Texans. And remember, the rookie season of C.J. Stroud, he came on the scene and he did so well for Bobby Slowick, and it was a Kyle Shanahan scheme. Well, now it's not a Kyle Shanahan scheme. It's more of a Sean McVay scheme. And are they offshoots of each other? Yes, but they are definitely different ways, right? So this is a different taste, a different way to go about it. And C.J. Stroud has struggled for the most part under Nick Caley. Now, he has been a passing game coordinator for the Rams. He put together some really good, units there. They had some really good passing games, 10th best when he was pass game coordinator for Los Angeles Rams. So he knows what he's doing. They just haven't been able to stay consistently effective, both through the air and on the ground. And so Nick Caley, he's definitely got the ability. We've seen Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, assistant coaches or former assistant coaches, littered all over this league. And, they're all pretty good play callers, and I think that this is going to be an interesting one. But right now, C.J. Stroud and Nick Caley can't get this offense rolling. They really haven't scored very many points. They've only scored over 20 twice this season, so this is going to be an interesting one. And Caley's going to be matched up against Robert Saleh. And right now, Saleh is pulling all the right strings. He's doing all the right things to make this defense play their best. They're without Nick Bosa, they're without Fred Warner, no problem. They have their best game as far as scoring defense. They only allowed 10 points. They were really difficult to score on in the red zone. They were fantastic on third down. So this is something that Robert Saleh can do, and he's going to want to go out there and put some pressure on C.J. Stroud, but it's got to stop with stopping the run. But if anyone can handle this, it's Robert Saleh, and he's very in tune with this type of offense that he's going to see. So it's going to be very interesting. And then the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans is Matt Burke. He's been there for 3 years. As long as D'Amico Ryans has been there, look for D'Amico to be the main guy. But Matt Burke helps him put together the plans and come up with all the things that they need to do to try to slow down Kyle Shanahan's offense. So it's going to be so cool to watch Robert Saleh's defense on one side and then that battle on the other side. Kyle Shanahan versus D'Amico Ryans. Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be interesting. The number one scoring defense, Houston Texans, only give up 14.7 points per game against Kyle Shanahan's offense, who's only been scoring 20.7 points per game. So the first team to get to 20 could win this football game. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup, that's for sure. And then you look at the special teams. And Brant Boyer is the special teams coach for the 49ers. We've seen the special teams get better and better and better, especially when it comes to lanes and coverage on kickoff and punt. They've definitely done better there. Of course, Eddie Piñeiro's been fantastic. John Weeks, Thomas Morstead in the battery of the field goals, great. He's 17 of 17. So this has been an effective special teams unit. They're getting better, and that's one of the keys to this 49ers team being successful, is being able to be playing complementary football, offense, defense, special teams playing together. And Brant Boyer's been doing a good job. And then Frank Ross, the special teams for the Houston Texans. He's been there for 5 years. He's a consistent voice. He's had really good special teams units and really good kickers since he's been in Houston. And, of course, they got Ka'imi Fairbairn, who is effective. He's got some leg, so we'll see what happens with him. He does have a tendency to pull or push one here or there. But he's definitely got some opportunities in some games, and he's done a pretty good job. So Fairbairn definitely up to the task. Now I want to talk to you guys about FanDuel. Right now, the San Francisco 49ers spread is at 1.5, that they are underdogs. It was 2.5 yesterday, so it went back down to 1.5. The money line on the 49ers at plus 110, and the over-under is 41.5. There's lots of cool player props, same game parlays. Of course, I'm going to go through my player props that I really like for this game later on. I'm going to give my score prediction, tell you if it's going to be over-under. That's going to be at the end of the show. But as you can see, lots of cool stuff. Go through FanDuel, check it out. Lots of cool player props, things that you can win on if you bet with FanDuel. But let's get into the offensive key matchups. And I think one of the key offensive key matchups, and I went into this in great depth in the episode yesterday. So if you want a more extensive breakdown of each one of these, you can go check out that episode. That's available right here on YouTube or on the audio platform, wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. So the 49ers run game versus the Texans front seven is going to be one of the keys in this game because the Houston Texans run defense has been good. It hasn't been elite. They give up about 95 yards per game on the ground, which is effective defense. But the 49ers just had an explosive game against the Atlanta Falcons. And what was interesting was all the conversation this week about the 49ers running gap scheme. 49ers will run gap scheme a lot. 2019, they run a ton of gap scheme. In fact, they ran more gap scheme than outside zone, even though people believe they ran more outside zone because of what Raheem Mostert did running the football that year. But they ran a lot. What's going to be the key is the mixture of outside zone and zone scheme and inside zone and gap scheme and then other concepts as well. Whatever you can do to get a competitive advantage. And that's what I love about Chris Foerster, who's the run game coordinator, and Kyle Shanahan. When they work together, they come up with really unique plans. And then you throw in Clay Kubiak and you get a lot of fun between the three of them. So I think the 49ers run game is going to have some unique looks, and they're going to have to really put some pressure on the Houston Texans run defense, because if they can get to a point where they rush for about 115 yards in this game on 30 to 35 carries, I think they'll have a really good shot to win. In fact, they might be winning this game at that point and trying to seal the deal. But there's got to be an effective run game to win the time of possession, to put the pressure on the Houston Texans defense, but also take the pressure off the 49ers defense. I don't think that this is an overwhelming matchup for the 49ers defense, but I still believe CJ Stroud has enough weapons to be effective and be able to move the ball against the 49ers defense. A fresh defense is always the best way. But also the marrying of the pass attack with the play action to the run game is going to be imperative. And one of the ways you can do that, and you have to do it because you have to stop that pass rush from being able to get home all the time. So you have to move the pocket. One of the things the 49ers aren't really great at is traditional pass sets for their offensive line. So having times when you can move the pocket a little bit could be very effective. And that's why you got to get the run game going. Then you can start moving the pocket, getting Mac Jones moving a little bit, even with half rolls, and then finding your receivers in some of these flood routes, these levels concepts. So I think that's what they want to do. They want to establish a run game. They want to get some play action off of that. That will neutralize the pass rush a little bit, and you can be a little bit more effective in non-traditional, pass sets where the offensive line is their best. But they're really their best when they're able to run block effectively. When you get that run blocking going, you're going forward. That's the best 49ers, and I expect Christian McCaffrey to be able to get it done on the ground again. I think they're going to be effective in the run game. I like Christian McCaffrey versus Alshire and EJ Speed. I think that almost every week Christian McCaffrey is a mismatch for the opposing team's linebackers, and it doesn't change in this one. So what does DeMeco Ryans do? Does he put an emphasis on stopping Christian McCaffrey and take a guy like Jalen Petrie and put him on him, or a Kalen Bullock and put him on him? He could. We've seen some of that over the first week in Seattle. They put Nick Emmanwori. His job was to go handle George Kittle sometimes and Christian McCaffrey other times. Could they do that with their safeties? Yes. I think that's possibly something they could do. I think that they might even run against the 49ers 21 personnel, a 3-safety look. That has been something that was effective. Mike McDonald and the Seahawks held the 49ers to just 17 points doing something similar. I think DeMeco Ryans might do something like that. But if it is a matchup, and Kyle Shanahan will personnel group the Houston Texans to death to find the matchups that he wants. And if he gets CMC on Alshire and EJ Speed, it's advantage 49ers and expect them to go that direction. Now, for George Kittle, he's probably going to see a lot of Kalen Bullock and MJ Stewart, and more than likely Kalen Bullock, unless they decide to put him on Christian McCaffrey. Now, I think that the 49ers realize now with these two gravitational pulls in their offense that they're going to be able to open some things up for some other guys. Now, there's good cornerbacks, Derek Stingley, Amari Lassiter. These guys have got talent on the outside, especially Stingley. I mean, this is a lockdown guy, but I don't think they're going to have him go with Jawan or go with Kendrick Bourne or Demarcus Robinson. I think he's going to stay on one side. And I do think the 49ers are going to look to go after Jalen Petrie in the slot and go after Kamari Lassiter. And that's what Seattle did last week, went after Kamari Lassiter and found some opportunities there. He's good, but when in zone coverage, you can find some windows between him and MJ Stewart. So I think the 49ers are going to do that. And I think if the Texans come in trying to take away Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle is going to have himself a game. And I think if it's vice versa. Now, what I expect D'Amico Ryans to do is to try to mix it up. Sometimes take away McCaffrey, sometimes take away Kittle, and put the onus on Mac Jones to read it and figure it out. That's what he loves to do. He gets you to think about it for a second. You slow down, and that allows that elite pass rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter to get home, and the guys in the middle that can push. And that's one of the things that's going to be interesting. The 49ers offensive line versus the Texans pass rush. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter is enough, but I brought up Danico Autry earlier. He can bring pressure from the inside. They got plenty of other guys as well. So that interior portion of the offensive line, why it might be significant if the 49ers do decide to bring back Spencer Burford. Burford has proven that he can pass block on the interior. He's a lateral mover, but also he's a guy that really moves people in the run game. So there's an opportunity for him to play left guard. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Maybe they go with the rotation, though. They fooled around with the rotation last week of Nick Zakelj rotating with Connor Kobe before the injury to Jake Brendel. And I think with Spencer Burford being back, they could do the exact same thing and have him available, especially if they keep Austin Pleasance active for the game. They already have another tackle, and they don't have to worry in case something happens that Spencer Burford wouldn't be available. So that's going to be interesting in this game. Look for the 49ers to give help to Colt McKivitz on time at times, and Trent Williams have his hands full with Danielle Hunter for the most part. Getting to the red zone is a key. One of the things D'Amico Ryans does really well on defense is he prevents you, once you get across midfield, from ever getting to the red zone. And he forces those field goals in that area. That's when he comes after you. It's bend and don't break until you cross the 50. Then it's attack and try to keep you out of scoring position. They're very effective. Now, if you get into the red zone, you have an opportunity. Their defense allows touchdowns at 66%. So you can be effective in there if you can get there. But that's going to be one of the keys. And the way you're going to do that is by winning on third down. And the 49ers offense continues to get better on third down. The 49ers offense at 47.5% on third down. And the Houston Texans defense stopping people at 32%. Same percentage as Atlanta. The 49ers went over 50% last week. So that just kind of shows you that effective defense has been ineffective stopping the 49ers on third down. They've done a really good job all season. You know, if they can get to that 50% on third down, that's elite levels of play. Now let's talk about the defensive matchups. And it's not going to be a big list. 49ers defense versus Texans run game. It's got to be stop Woody Marks. It's got to be stop Nick Chubb. And if they slow them down and force third and longs, this Houston Texans offense is not good on third down. They only convert at 30% rate. That's why it's going to be very important for the 49ers to have early down success, especially against the run. If they can slow down that Texans running game and not allow them to get going and make this a one-dimensional Houston Texans team without them having Nico Collins, without them having Christian Kirk, I think it's going to be really a simple game plan for the 49ers. It'll be rush the passer on third down, attack. It'll be take away Dalton Schultz and put the onus on the young wide receivers to go out there and be effective. And like I said, it's not that these guys aren't capable. They definitely are, but they're still young. You got Xavier Hutchinson. You've got Jalen Noel. You've got Jaden Higgins. And, of course, Noel and Higgins are the two rooks. Hutchinson, he's been around for a little bit, and they got Braxton Berrios as well. So it's not like they're devoid of talent, that's for sure. But when you're missing Christian Kirk and Nico Collins, it's going to hurt you. You know, 49ers have been missing guys as well. They're getting a little bit more healthy at wide receiver. But I do think that 49ers stop the run game and kind of slow down the offense and what they're capable of doing. And I think that's going to open up things for you to get after C.J. Stroud. 49ers safeties versus Dalton Schultz. I think this is going to be a big one. Once again, Kyle Pitts able to make some plays against Malik Mustafa when he got lined up on him. I thought Jair Brown did pretty good in coverage last week, which is the thing that he's on the field for. That's where he kind of excels compared to the other two safeties. But when it comes to stopping the run, tackling, angles, that all goes to Malik Mustafa and Marquis Siegel, who are the two of the better ones in that category. I wonder if the 49ers fool around with the big nickel again and get some opportunities where they put Jason Pinnock on Dalton Schultz. I think that's a possibility. Maybe they fool around with a dime look. It's going to be interesting to see what Robert Saleh does, but I think that he's not afraid to kind of attack either direction. So I do like this matchup for the 49ers, but Dalton Schultz is going to get catches. Dalton Schultz, if you're going to look for another bet, Dalton Schultz getting catches in this game, I think is something that's going to happen because I think C.J. Stroud's going to lean on him. Now, of course, that could always mean Robert Saleh says, hey, we're going to go take him away. We feel more comfortable with our corners, right, on their wide receivers, which I think is a good sign. But if I had to, I would say Dalton Schultz is going to make some catches in this game. I don't know if he's going to make touchdowns. I think the 49ers are going to be difficult in that department, but I do think he's going to make catches. And then get pressure on C.J. Stroud. And how are you going to do that? You keep missing defensive linemen. I mean, now you don't have Bryce Huff. You don't have Yetur Gross-Matos. The good thing is you had Kevin Givens back. Now you have more interior pressure from defensive tackle. Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens doing a good job there. Mikael Williams still does a great job rushing from the inside. But now what are you going to get from your edge department, right? You got Charles Omenihu. Sorry, not Charles Omenihu. You got Sam Okawanu. Wow, I just flashed back like 3 years. You got Sam Okawanu. And Okawanu's been bringing some pressure off the edge. He's been doing a pretty good job there. And so you got him. You're going to have Robert Beal Jr., probably Trevis Gibson. We'll see what happens with the 49ers elevations. But it's going to be about who's coming. DJ Stroud's got to figure it out. Which 49ers going to come? Is it going to be Tatum Bethune, D. Winters, Upton Stout, Jason Pinnock, Marquise? Like, they're going to blitz. They're going to bring at least 5 and a lot of opportunity to get after CJ Stroud. Anything 3rd and 10 and longer, and they're just going to sit back. Anything around 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, don't be surprised if Robert Saleh doesn't come after CJ Stroud and make him make a quick decision. Now, what about the keys to the win? Keys to win. We talked about 3rd down a lot. 49ers, 47.5% that they convert on 3rd down. That's going to be one of the key matchups with the Texans defense, only giving up conversions at 32%. Then on the other side of the football, the Houston Texans only convert at 30%, while the 49ers defense has still been very effective. They only give up 3rd down conversions at 35%, and that's up from 33% last week because Atlanta had some success on 3rd down last week. But 49ers are definitely got an advantage when it comes down to 3rd down on both sides. I think the Texans, defense versus 49ers offense, pretty equal. That's strength on strength. Now, red zone offense. 49ers have improved a lot, going 100% last week. They're up to 48% in the red zone. That's a lot more effective. You see a lot of the averages are around 50%, so they're getting close. But if they can effectively run the ball in the red zone like they've been able to do the last couple of weeks, I look for this number to continue to trend in the upward department. But like I said, one of the keys for this 49ers offense is just getting in the red zone. If they can get in the red zone, that's going to be a big win for them against the Texans. But it's all about scoring touchdowns. Don't play field goal games. If you have to kick field goals, that's fine. But it's all about touchdowns. Touchdowns to field goals. It's always an advantage for those who are able to execute in the red zone. And the Texans are at 50% in the red zone, which is pretty average. So 49ers need to keep them out. 49ers defense, it only allows touchdowns at 60%. That is top 10 in the NFL. I think that's a little high. They want this closer to 55% for sure, or even 50, which is really, really good. And so the 49ers defense needs to be a little bit better, but it's not like the Houston Texans red zone offense is a runaway offense. They struggled last week in the red zone against the Seattle Seahawks. And the Texans defense gives up touchdowns at 66%. 49ers got to take advantage of that number. That's the same number the Falcons were. The 49ers blew them up for 2 touchdowns inside the red zone, both of them on the ground. So effectiveness there. You have to limit turnovers. And the 49ers have 11 giveaways this season. Way too many. Way too many. Houston Texans, only 6. They take care of the ball. CJ Stroud has only thrown 4 interceptions this season. 9-4 touchdown to interception ratio of more than 2-1. That's really good. That's, where exactly you want to be. You look at takeaways. Texans had 4 last week. So that jumped their number up to 10. 49ers only 6 takeaways this season. They played 7 games. You want to get 2 turnovers a game. They don't even average 1 turnover a game. So 49ers need to get their hands on the football. Now, last week, they did get the ball on the ground a lot. They were putting pressure on Michael Penix. And so if they could do the same thing to C.J. Stroud, maybe they can cause some turnovers this week. And the turnover battle is going to be critical with how good the Houston Texans defense is. If the 49ers offense can get short fields because of turnovers caused by the defense, that'll go a long way to helping the scoring and helping the 49ers ultimately win. Turnover differential, 49ers -5, Houston Texans +6. This is one of the biggest anomalies. The 49ers are 5-2. The Houston Texans are 2-4. And if you looked at the turnover differential, the scoring defense, you would think the Houston Texans and 49ers are flipped. But it's just been ineffectiveness by the Houston Texans on offense that's really been the problem. And it hasn't been turnovers. It's been third downs, and it's been just consistently staying on the field and getting drives together. So it's going to be interesting. And now it's time for the Wow, That's Bold predictions.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be really bold. It's got to be whoa. Of course, Wow, That's Bold predictions are brought to you by 49erscutbackshop.com, where you can get all your 49ers Cutback merch. You want a 49ers Cutback mug or a shirt, 49ers inspired gear as well. Link is in the description section. Go check it out, and you could be rocking some 49ers Cutback merch. So let's go to the offense. And I talked about Christian McCaffrey. I talked about George Kittle and how there's going to be a lot of attention paid to them by DeMeco Ryans. He knows how this offense works. He knows who this offense works through. And that's why I think when the 49ers get into the red zone, it's going to be Kendrick Bourne that walks away with the touchdown. I'm not saying that George Kittle or McCaffrey won't get one, but I think Kendrick Bourne's going to get one. I think that it's going to come down to a nice matchup for him, and the 49ers are going to run a concept that opens him up. There's been opportunities for him to get touchdowns in the last few weeks, and it just hasn't quite worked out for him. And there's one in particular I can remember, Mac Jones, if he just unloads, it's a touchdown. So I expect the 49ers to get Kendrick Bourne in the end zone in this one for a touchdown. I think Juwan Jennings will get attention from Derek Stingley, and you'll get some matchups that you like. And I like Kendrick Bourne around the red zone. And then I got the 49ers going over 50% in the red zone. I last week they went 100%. I wasn't willing to say, hey, they're going to go 100%. But I think they're going to go at least 50% this week inside the red zone against a stingy, Texans defense. That means I think they're going to get down there a couple of times at least and be able to score inside the red zone. I said 1 to Kendrick Bourne, so I do think that that's going to happen. Now, the defense, I think they're going to hold the Houston Texans run game under 100 yards rushing. Last week, they were able to slow down Bijan Robinson. I think they slowed down Woody Marks and Nick Chubb this week, and I think that they're effective in preventing the Texans from being able to just completely rely on that run game. And I think it's going to be a focal point for Robert Saleh, make this Texans team one-dimensional, put the onus on C.J. Stroud, and I think the 49ers are going to be able to do it. And then I think the record comes down. I think the 49ers are going to get an interception in this game. And I know C.J. Stroud's done a really good job taking care of the football all year, 9 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, but I think that he's going to get put in a precarious situation on third down. The 49ers are going to bring a blitz, and he's going to get rid of the football a little bit sooner than he wants, and it's going to land into the hands of one of the 49ers cornerbacks. Now, one of the interesting things is, a few weeks back, I said the same thing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 49ers would get an interception, and I called Upton Stout getting an interception, and he got one, but he got a penalty first, so got erased. So I'm saying first interception of the season. I'm not saying who it's going to be, though. This time, I don't have a beat on it. Usually, my film study will kind of give me a beat on it, and I just don't know for sure. But I think the 49ers are going to get one, and I think it's going to be a big-time play in this game as the 49ers need turnovers. Now, let's get to the score prediction brought to you by FanDuel. And, I wanted to go with a couple player props. I do that every single week. And I'm sticking with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I had him over 70 yards on the ground last week at plus 118, and it paid off. Well, Christian McCaffrey, I have him this week at 25 plus receiving yards in each half. Now, that went out on a little limb. We know that he gets a lot of yards, but I'm saying it's 25 in each half, and that's hard to predict. So this is a risky one. But at plus 330, I think it's a good payout if you like to go that direction. So that's how I'm going to go. And then I'm going with Kendrick Bourne over 40 yards at plus 142. I like the odds there. I think with all the attention to Christian McCaffrey and all the attention to George Kittle and the fact that Derek Stingley's probably going to be, they're going to put Jawan Jennings on him sometimes. I think Kendrick Bourne's going to have some opportunities against Kamari Lassiter. I think he's going to have some opportunities against Jalen Petrie. And really just him and Mac Jones synergy, especially against zone coverage. I think this is one of those times Kendrick Bourne is going to go over 40 yards. And if, this would have been an easy bet like 2 weeks ago when he was going for 140 every week. So I think he gets over 40 yards at plus 142. And now it's time for the score prediction, picking the winner. And I think the 49ers are going to score more than their season average. And that's probably saying a lot against the number one scoring defense. And I'm probably out on a limb on this one, but I talked about the turnovers earlier, and I talked about the effectiveness in the red zone, and I think that's going to happen. And I think that the Texans' struggles on offense are what's really going to produce the 49ers some more opportunities to score on the offensive side of the ball. I got the 49ers scoring 23 points in this game. I've said I think the first team to 20 will probably win, and I'm going to stick with that. I think the 49ers win this game 23-16. I think that they're able to pull off a big win in Houston. And I think that Houston's going to play inspired football play, but in the end, they're not able to score enough. They're not able to get to 20, and the 49ers cause enough turnovers to be able to get this thing done, which means I am taking the under 41.5 because I got it at 39. I know it's a tight one there, but I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but it could shock me. Last week, I thought there was going to be a lot of points, and it wasn't. It was low-scoring. So you just never know with the 49ers. They just always find ways to win. But I got the 49ers winning this one. Of course, let me know what your score prediction is down in the comment section. I'm always curious. I read through them, see what you guys say. And a lot of you guys are right every week. So congratulations on that. You guys are paying attention and you know your 49ers. So I really appreciate you all coming by, watching this. Of course, I'll be back for the game reaction show. Couldn't do it last week. I was at the game. Going to be back with one this week. I'll get in here about 10, 15 minutes after the game. You guys can hop in, check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.